Welcome to the Back in Time podcast with Kyle and JD, where every week we jump into our DeLorean, cruise to 88 miles per hour, and travel back in time to review our favorite films. Every week we talk about current cinema, the latest trailers, and we pick a new favorite film every single episode.
But I need a nuclear reaction to generate the 1.21 gigawatts of electricity. 1.21 gigawatts!
Don't say that! Never say that! Goonies never say die!
We're the best, we're the beautiful, we're the only Ghostbusters.
Now, here's your host, Kyle Autry, and his co-host, JD.
Welcome back to the Back in Time podcast. I am your host, Kyle Autry, joined, as always, by my co-host, JD. JD, how are you today, man?
Doing pretty rock and roll. How are you, Kyle? I feel like I don't often enough times ask you in response, how the hell are you?
I'm doing good. I'm excited to talk some blue chips and anything else basketball related. I think this is going to be a fun episode and looking forward to getting into it. So I want to thank you guys for hitting the download button on episode 52. As I just mentioned, we're getting ready to discuss the 1994 drama sport film Blue Chips. Before we jump into Blue Chips, let's fire up the DeLorean and go back to last week. We discussed Lost Boys. JD, what was your feedback on the Lost Boys episode?
Very happy to hear so many people were so excited about this episode and nothing but love for the movie, for some Alex Winter action, and just a great deep dive into a movie that I think a lot of people remember, but might not be on their radars to watch on a yearly basis, which Lost Boys is a movie that should be playing every summer, autumn, Halloween. It should be on a regular rotation.
I agree. Yeah, it's one of my favorite movies. I was happy we had a chance to do it. And if you haven't listened to it yet, go back into the archives and check it out. Great episode. Now, if you're listening to this episode, make sure that you are interacting with us on social media. Everything is at Back in Time Pod on Twitter, Instagram. We're on Facebook. You can shoot us an email at backintimepodcast@gmail.com and just let us know what you think. What you want us to cover next. Maybe we'll put it up on a poll topic, or we'll just pick it for one of our next movies. And I'm excited. All right, JD, let's talk about what's coming down the pipeline.
Hey, I'm freezing my butt off here. There's cold air coming from any event.
Yeah, we froze the pipes. We're going for a little ride.
So every week we preview what's coming down the pipeline for the show and in theaters. Next week on the podcast, we are going to be getting into Can't Hardly Wait. Jennifer Love Hewitt, Ethan Embry. It's got Seth Green in it. I mean, there's so many good characters in that cast. What are you looking forward to most when we get into Can't Hardly Wait?
I haven't seen this movie in a very long time, so I'm just looking forward to a fresh set of eyes on a movie that I know that I loved last time I saw it.
It's going to be interesting watching this as an adult, or kinda. We're technically considered adults, but I look forward to just seeing how this movie has aged, and does it still hold up? Are the references still funny? That's what I look forward to. I think it will, though, because American Pie held up in our archives. Now, let's talk about what's coming into theater. We've got a couple good movies. I think you're going to be excited this week. Last week, you were not excited. This week, I think you will be. We've got Dog Days coming out. JD, are you excited to see Dog Days? I can't even say it with a straight face.
What is Dog Days?
Dog Days follows a group of interconnected people in Los Angeles who are brought together by their lovable canine counterparts.
I've never heard of it. I've never seen a preview. I've never heard the phrase Dog Days uttered in reference to a movie title. I know nothing about this, and therefore I assume none of you know anything about this. And
Correct.
Kyle, how do you know about this?
Because I can see it on the list. The one I was really serious about, though, that was to throw you off, is The Meg, which is about a attack that claims it happens from a 70-foot shark Jonas Taylor must confront his fears to save those trapped on a sunken submersible. A sunken submersible. JD, are you excited at all about The Meg?
Yeah, I think The Meg will be a pretty cool movie. Anytime you can bring in a shark, a submarine, underwater, and tie in some Jason Statham, you got a winner on your hands.
And you get a beet farmer as well.
You do have some Rainn Wilson action.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. I think this is going to be a really fun movie. And I mean, when's the last time we had like a truly good like shark movie? It's been a long time, I feel like.
I feel like Sharknado comes out every year with a new one, so
How dare you,
bite
sir.
your tongue.
How dare you?
They I don't know if you follow Asylum on Twitter, but they put out a poll recently asking who should be the next like mega shark versus megalodon movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I voted that they should fight a volcano. I didn't get any love.
Are they still putting Tara Reid in those movies?
You know, I don't know that their insurance covers her sex tests that she needs.
Don't go all sideways on Tara Reid.
Was that too easy? Was that low-hanging fruit?
I feel like it was. Yeah, I think you owe her an apology.
Miss Reed, I am sincerely sorry.
I'm
That was
picturing.
creepy.
Yeah, it was so weird.
I don't know. I have no clue why I said it like that.
Let's talk about our oh wow moments of the week.
Wow, flippers and all. Wow. 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 This is a nice boat. Wow, I sort of got screwed on the old bedroom selection. Every room's like 4 times as big as mine.
JD, what's your oh wow moment this week?
So I'm a little behind on all the announcements that came out from San Diego Comic-Con. Kyle, you may know this about me. Audience, you may not know this about me, but I'm a big fan of the Oculus Rift in VR, and to see that Marvel is coming out with a game called Powers United, which is out by the time Blue Chips is going to be hitting your ears, is looking to be a fantastic VR game, and I don't care if it gets good or bad reviews. I am so dying to throw on the headpiece and to jump into a world of VR, and it's exciting because they're mixing not only characters from the MCU, but they also have a few X-Men characters in there too. That we get some Storm, some Wolverine, even Iceman. So,
Okay.
Oh wow, for Marvel attacking the Oculus Rift.
Hey, I've never actually put on a VR headset ever. So for somebody that's not into that, sell me on it real quick.
Open your eyes.
Okay?
Now close your eyes.
Yep.
Now pretend that with your eyes closed that you get to see everything that was there when your eyes were open.
Okay.
Oh wow.
That's
It's the weirdest thing. It's so trippy because you're completely immersed in the game. Like if you look to the left, you see the game. If you look to the right, you look up, you look down, you duck. It's like you're living in a completely different world. And then to be able to play a game and interact, and you throw a punch and you're fighting robots and you're shooting guns. It's ridiculous. It's literally like being in the game. And it's really in the infant stages of where the technology can go. But from here, it only gets better.
Okay. Might have to give that a try.
Hey, I'm trying to fast list it as my next big purchase. So if you make your way out towards me, then we will play some Oculus Rift hopefully in the future.
Okay. I like that idea. Sounds cool. So my oh wow moment of the week, and you know, what's funny about life sometimes is you feel like you're doing really good. You got nice things, and then you realize there's just a whole nother level to this game. And I read an article that Serena Williams and her husband decided to fly to Italy just over the night because she, quote, wanted Italian food. JD, I didn't have enough gas to go to McDonald's yesterday. They're going on a private jet to Italy so we can eat real Italian. Does that annoy you as much as it annoys me?
It annoys me for many reasons, both as an American citizen to be like, really?
Right.
Both as a poor American citizen to be like, come on.
Mm-hmm.
And then third, as an Italian American citizen to be like, bitch, just come over here and let me make you some spaghetti and then I'll send you home.
Right. Or just, hit the drive-thru at Fazoli's. Hey, is there anything worse than Fazoli's, by the way?
I don't know. It's pretty tight between that and Olive Garden.
Okay. You don't like Olive Garden? How
I like
dare you.
their breadsticks, their salad, and their soup, but
I
I
do too.
guarantee you, I make a much better pasta than they do.
Okay. I actually don't go there for the food other than, well, the main dish. I go there for the breadsticks and the zuppa de scone, potato soup. So good.
Yeah. I can't. I
Oh my
guarantee you, I
gosh.
can't make a soup to their caliber. But
No, it's a darn good soup. Let me ask you this. When you were a little kid, like, I assume you got a lot of pasta because you're Italian. I had a lot of SpaghettiOs and ravioli. Would you say you're more SpaghettiOs or are you more Chef Boyardee?
if I had to choose, it would be SpaghettiOs.
Okay. Plain, Franks, or meatballs?
Oh, plain, please. Those meatballs are disgusting.
I always like the little sliced Franks. I feel like that was horribly unhealthy, though.
I'm a fan of Franken beans.
Yeah. Frank and beans. There we go. I love it. Totally unplanned. Very good. So let's get into some intro to Blue Chips. Blue Chips is a 1994 American basketball drama film directed by William Friedkin, written by Ron Shelton, and starring Nick Nolte as college coach and real-life basketball stars Shaquille O'Neal, Anthony Penny Hardaway as the talented Fines. It features cameos from noted basketball figures such as Bob Knight, Rick Pitino, Nolan Richardson, Bob Cousy, Larry Bird, Jerry Tarkanian, Matt Painter, Alan Houston, Dick Vitale, Jim Boeheim, and Bobby Hurley. Filming began May 10th of 1993, and it would wrap on August 9th of 1993, so we're looking at a 3-month shoot. In comparison, last week, JD, we talked about Lost Boys that took only 3 weeks. One of those movies is really good. One of those movies is a little bit forgotten. Why do you think they needed 3 months for Blue Chips?
Well, maybe that explains where their $30 million budget went.
Filming took place all over the place, but the main part of the film was done in Frankfort, Indiana, in the arena interior in French Lick, Indiana, as well as Chicago, New Orleans, Los Angeles, and the campus of USC, University of Southern California. Nick Nolte actually shadowed Bob Knight during many of the 1992, during many games in 1992 to research the role. Knight appears as himself, but has really no scripted lines. Also, I should mention French Lick, of course, is home to Larry Bird, who plays a scene with Nolte on the outside court of Bird's home. This is actually the same exact court that was used in the Converse television commercial from 1984 that starred Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. JD, are you a Larry Bird fan? Because I'm a massive Bird guy.
You're a bird man, aren't you?
I sure do. I like his beak.
I always liked Larry Bird, his beak, and that mustache that he had in the video game Jordan versus Bird. But I gotta say, when it comes down to Jordan versus Bird, Jordan owns the court.
Okay. Now, let the record show I do have a Larry Bird autograph on my wall, as well as the DVD collection of Larry Bird. So, pretty deep. We actually got a jersey that I saved from when I was a little kid that's locked away in storage. For some reason, I thought it might be worth something. Probably should get it signed, huh?
Well, yeah, he still has some good years in his tank.
So Shaquille O'Neal was so impressed with the way that Anthony Hardaway was playing with him during production and all the pickup games that he encouraged the Orlando Magic to draft him the following year, and the Magic would successfully trade the number 1 pick, which was Chris Webber, for Anthony Hardaway on the 1993 NBA draft, and the two played together for 3 seasons, including the Magic's first and I think their only NBA Finals appearance in 1995. JD, did you know that Shaq actually persuaded them to draft him because of this movie?
Yeah, I always remember hearing that as a rumor when we were kids, especially since Tim Hardaway being with the Golden State Warriors way back in the day. Yeah. And they're related, right? They're not brothers, they're cousins.
I don't know the relation there. I don't think they're related, but I mean,
I
we got
always
the
thought
last
that-
name.
Well, we're talking rumors when you're 9 years old. So
Right. Yeah, no, Tim Hardaway was a really good player too. His son's a really good player now for the New York Knicks, Tim Hardaway Jr.
I love it. Such creative names. Like my other favorite basketball player is Patrick Ewing Jr.
He had a very short professional career. Unfortunately, he didn't get old dad's height. He only got to like 6'7" instead of 7 foot.
Only.
Exactly. Shaquille O'Neal was nominated for a Razzie for Worst New Star. JD, do you think that's warranted? I don't think he's terrible in this, but I know you don't like his smiling.
No, it's not that I don't like his smiling. I just think that he just smiles a lot,
So he's just doing it too much.
as I remember.
Okay.
But like you said, he's a happy man.
Yeah, he is. Now, if you want to hear more about critic response and box office numbers, you can go to our archives, check out our last episode that was posted on Monday, and listen to the teaser trailer. We cover all that stuff in detail. So the film was met with not so good reviews. As we just talked about, Shaq got a Razzie for Worst Actor, and the movie kind of flamed out at the box office theaters after it opened pretty strong, but then fizzled out after just a couple weeks. Let's jump into some interesting facts. At the end of the movie, Neon and Butch McRae, played respectively by Shaquille O'Neal and Anthony Hardaway, leave school early to go pro and play pro ball. In real life, O'Neal and Hardaway both left school early and played in the NBA as teammates. JD, did you ever pick up on that connection in the script?
I did not. That's a really cool connection.
Yeah, that was pretty. Nick Nolte wrote a 200-page novel about Pete Bell to tap into the character's psyche. I love actors and their trying to get into character routines here. How crazy is that?
That's insane. 200 pages?
Yeah, about his entire career, probably his coaching philosophy, like all this stuff.
Yeah, that's borderline like a sociopathic.
Yeah.
That's a manifest or something like that.
Yeah, and we thought Eric Stoltz was a little crazy for being called Marty all the time on Back to the Future set. In our archives, check out the Casey and Gaines interview. A lot more on that topic. As in the film, Shaquille O'Neal's real final college game came against Indiana, coached by Bob Knight, as the favored Hoosiers beat O'Neal's LSU Tigers 89-79 in the second round of the 1992 NCAA tournament. The Hoosiers went on to reach the Final Four, losing in the national semifinals to the reigning champion Duke Blue Devils, who were coached by a famous Knight protege, Mike Krzyzewski, Coach K. So how about that for another tie-in? Shaquille O'Neal's last game against Bob Knight in both real life and in the movie.
Huh. Go figure.
In the scene where Bob Cousy's shooting baskets, he was told to just keep shooting as they were rolling film, and as he talks with Nick Nolte, regardless of whether the baskets went in or not, they just wanted him to keep going. But Cousy never missed, prompting Nolte to ad-lib his reaction where he goes, "Shit, don't you ever miss?"
That's awesome.
Yeah, Bob Cousy still had it even at that age. I think it's got to be close to 70 maybe when this is filmed.
Oh, geez.
He was not a young man, but I mean, yeah, you can see him just pop him in there. So that's it. We're going to be back on the other side with the full review, as well as a clip from Blue Chips, where we're going to take a quick bathroom break. See you in a minute.
Wait a minute, what are you doing, Doc? I need fuel. Nigel, goddamn, get him on this whole fuck! Oh! Ray Charles could have made a better call for Christ's sake. Throw him into the box! You're scanning over and you know I didn't touch him. God damn it! Yeah, but you didn't even see over there. Go ahead, check it. I didn't touch him. I swear to God. I don't know where. This is the third fucking time you did it. For Christ's sake, you just fall away in there. What are you, blind man? You son of a bitch!
Okay, we are back from the bathroom break, ready to jump into Blue Chips here. We're going to do things a little bit different today. We just couldn't kind of wrap our heads around how we wanted to do Blue Chips. I feel like doing it like scene by scene and doing the commentary like we normally do might be a little dragging for a movie like this. JD, do you agree with that?
Yeah, there's so much that's going on that it sort of moves in almost like a liquid manner that I think that going scene by scene won't do justice to the actual storyline.
Awesome. So we'll kind of break it up like beginning, middle, end. We've got several clips that we're going to put in here. So we're actually going to start with a clip from the movie, and this is one of my favorites here, where Coach Bell comes into the locker room, and the video clip, you can find this on YouTube, is called How Bad Can It Get? Let's take a listen here.
How bad can it get? Just how goddamn bad can it get? This is by far the worst team that has ever sat in this locker room. You son of a bitches! You don't deserve a locker room. You don't deserve a locker room the way you're playing this year. You should be playing without uniforms. You should be playing with jock straps. God damn it. Every time we get ready to play, I just want to throw up. I'm goddamn sick of watching you guys play. There's not one of you that's learned how to win. We got hammered the last 4 games, and it stopped right now. If you keep playing the way you're playing, we're going to get our ass beat again tonight. So depressed, I don't even want to talk about it. I'm through fighting, you sons of bitches! You're the dumbest team I ever coached. You guys think of something.
JD, I'm going to hit pause real quick. Let's chime in on the first half of Coach Bell's speech of how bad can it get. What do you think of this halftime? Actually, this is a pregame speech.
Anybody who's played sports has had this coach and has had this experience, and it is horrible. It's horrifying. It gives you so much anxiety. For some reason, this is a go-to speech that many a coach try to do, where they try to belittle you, then build you up, then tear you down. And as a player, you're left sitting there like, coach either really believes in me or wishes that I was dead. Did you have that experience at all?
So I've got a funny story. This is something I always reminisce about with my best friend. And we were on a trip for an AAU basketball game. And we had just gotten blown out by like 40 points. It was really bad. And they decided, my dad and this other coach, who was the head coach at the time, decided they're going to take us to a movie. And we actually went and saw Anaconda, which was in theaters that week. So this would be like 97, something like that. I'm 12 years old. And we're in the back of this big old van. One of those, you remember those big excursion vans? They used to be really popular back in the day, where they have the VCR tapes in there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it was one of those, and we had 7 or 8 guys crammed in there. We're just laughing around. We're giggling. He finally pulls off to the side of the road and just starts screaming, "That's why you guys suck. You guys don't listen." And he just went off on us for 5 minutes. And eventually my dad's like, "Hey, calm down." And he finally calmed down. He got back on the road, and we got to the movie theater. And I bet if you could have a camera on us when we got out of the car, it was like we were showing up to a funeral to watch this movie. Everybody was so quiet, and nobody was excited to see Anaconda that day. Yeah, that's my best story of a coach blowing up. How about you?
My best story of a coach blowing up was probably my senior year of high school. We were not very good, and we lost a lot of games. But this was in the middle of the season, and we had an early morning Saturday game. So we had to report to the locker room at 7 a.m. We had film at 8 a.m. And I fell asleep during pre-game film meeting. I was tired. I mean, Come on. I was 17 on a Saturday morning. And I wake up to our offensive coordinator, and he grabs me by the throat and starts beating down on my shoulder pads, yelling how he's going to eat my face. For what it's worth, that was my best game that I played all senior year of high school. Scared the shit out of me.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's listen to the second half of Coach Bell, who tells his assistants to take over, but comes right back in.
Honestly, Christ, I just want to go home and cry when I watch us play. Don't you boys understand? Don't you know how bad I want to see this team play? I want to see this team play so fucking bad I can taste it. Honest to Christ, you boys, the only joy I have right now is I don't have to watch you guys play 2 more games. God damn it!
So JD, the scene ends with him finally coming back in, and he kind of calmed down a little bit, but then he throws the water cooler all over the place. So that's kind of our opening sequence going into this first scene of them playing in a basketball game, which they do not win, followed by another game that they don't win, and Western's going to have their first losing season, long time. I want to say the first time in decades, from what I remember from the storyline. Chat me up a little bit on this opening sequence and kind of where you feel like this takes the story.
This opening sequence does a great job of establishing, 1, who Petey Bell is, 2, just how submissive his team is to him, and then 3, just how wacky his assistant coaches are. Like, I love watching him leave, and then the coaches go into coaching mode, and then he storms back in, and they're like, nope, he's not done yet. Let's let the show continues. So, I don't know, like, Nick Nolte plays a sociopath here. There's no other way to put it. He is crazy.
Do you know who he shadowed throughout the entire movie?
Is it not Bobby Knight?
Yeah. He
It has to be.
followed him around most of the season that year.
Yeah, it had to be, because I loved growing up in the period that we grew up when basketball was as big as it was. Bobby Knight was an icon.
Yeah.
And he was an icon for being an asshole.
Yeah, there's a really good documentary on ESPN that shows how bad he treated his players, and some like behind the scenes like practice footage. It's brutal. Like, had he been my coach, I don't think I mean, how would you have reacted if somebody, let's say in college, one of our coaches had grabbed you by the neck in the middle of a practice and started screaming at you?
For what it's worth, I did have a coach punch me in the helmet and break his finger.
That's a little different than like choking you, though. You know what I mean?
No.
Like, do you think you would have been able to put up with something like that? I don't think I could have.
Well, here's the thing that I feel that college sports has a problem with, and that as younger athletes you don't realize. The coaches beat you into submission, and you feel that you need to please them, that you need to appease what they want from you, that you don't feel like you have a voice. It's a bad relationship. And if a coach choked me in college, I don't know that as a 20-year-old kid that I would have known that I had a voice to say, no, this isn't right. I feel like I would have felt, I can't let my team down. I can't let my coaches down. I need to appear masculine. Like, I need to roll with the punches here. So if he was my coach, I probably would have been a bitch player for him.
Okay. All right. Appreciate you admitting that. So after they lose this first game, Coach Bell goes in for the post-game press conference. And of course, he's met with his gaggle of reporters. And one of the main reporters here is Ed O'Neill. Of course, he's famous for being the dad of the Bundys, Al Bundy. He's also, currently on a very big TV show called Modern Family. Jeez, he's been in everything. He's definitely a future episode when we finally do Little Giants, whenever that is. JD, what did you think of Ed O'Neill here in the role of Ed, the reporter?
I don't know. It's hard to watch him in this role coming off of Al Bundy, coming off of Little Giants, and not picture him in either of those parts where we've seen him as the wild, out of control coach, and now he's sort of that breaking journalist foil to Nick Nolte's character. And I don't know, like, it was fun to see him, but I don't necessarily know that I totally bought into it or could see him as anyone but Al Bundy or Little Giants.
Yeah. I think he's always kind of had that issue with being stereotyped, but I will say this is coming off the heels of his role as Glenn, the Makita's manager at the donut shop for Wayne's World. And in that role, he plays a pretty serious guy, because if you remember, they go in the donut shop and he's like, "Come over here. It was a dark night. I killed." And then, yeah.
Yeah, speaking of which, I know when this episode comes out, it'll be a little bit old news, but Stan Makita died. Did you see that?
I did. That's a bummer.
It is a bummer. I mean, throwback to Makita's Diner with Wayne World episode, but man, Stan Makita was a legend.
So what did you think of the setup here where, Ed's talking about the alleged point shaving? He wants to know about what their game plan is for recruiting. What do you think about this?
It's almost gotcha journalism, and there's obviously an element to that, to sports journalism, that you have to get them and you have to put them in a spot. And it's like, what are those assholes called that take pictures of celebrities and they're like, ooh. TMZ, there we go. It's almost like he goes TMZ on him to try to elicit like a rage response to see what it goes. And for what it's worth too, like, I had to look up what point shaving even meant. I had no clue. I was like, point shaving? I just pictured the scene from Heavyweights when they have to shave the balloon. That's what I picture when I hear point shaving. I hear the shaving balloon scene.
Okay. Nice. I like it. So he leaves the press conference. He goes to see his ex-wife. We know her as Madam President, Independence Day, Archives. Check it out. Good episode. But it's Jenny Bell, played by Mary McDonnell. So they've got an interesting relationship. She's still very much involved. She tapes every single basketball game. He comes over after the games, picks up all the tapes. They have a drink. They talk. And he's like, "Why don't I just come on upstairs for a little nightcap?" And she's like, "How about you go ahead and leave?" JD, what do you think of this relationship between the two?
It's a weird relationship, but it does a great deal to establish who Petey Bell is as a character, what he's gone through as a man, and the struggles that he has as a person off the basketball court.
Yeah. After he gets back home, he starts drinking more heavily. Then they go to basketball practice, and then they have another game, and that's really the last game of the year. And I feel like the team fought hard for him, but they weren't super talented, this very first team. But this will come back kind of later in the story, especially with the last speech of the movie, which we're definitely going to listen to and talk about. But one thing I liked about the practice scene, just going back to that for a minute, is where he pulls Tony aside and he wants to know how his classes are going. Is he taking care of his baby and his baby mama? And he's like, "No, man, I'm flunking TV. It's not just watching the tube. This is a hard class." And then before he leaves practice, he's like, "Hey, get Tony a tutor for TV." It's kind of a funny scene, but it also shows that he actually cares and he's not just a lunatic 24/7. What did you think of that scene?
Again, there's so much depth to the character in Nick Nolte's portrayal here that he does care about his characters. And this is going to come out so much more as the movie progresses about everything that he does with his blue chip athletes. But at the end of the day, he cares about his athletes. He cares about their progress, and he cares about winning. And he knows there's a recipe for success. And that recipe includes completing your classes, not impregnating your girlfriend, and getting good grades. And then, slam dunking.
Yeah. So they lose the final game of the season. Coach Bell stands in front of his team. He says, "One thing I got to say, I'm really proud of you guys. You're all winners in my book." And then they cut to the scene in the coach's office with the assistants. He's like, "They're losers. They're losers. All of them. They just stink." And they're going to start putting a game plan here for recruiting. And basically he wants to, just get out there, start, get in front of all these players, traveling all over the country. They go meet Robert Wool, which we talked a lot about in Batman, Arliss. And he kind of lays out the two top guys that he feels like in the country that can really turn this program around, which is Ricky Rowe, who's played by Matt Nover. We'll talk more about him in a minute. And then also Butch McRae, played by Penny Hardaway. And those are the two guys that they're going to go watch. I don't really have a great recruiting story. JD, do you have a decent recruiting story?
I do have two good recruiting stories. It was two rival schools, same conference, that were both recruiting me. One promised me a starting spot and a position on the all-conference roster as a freshman.
Okay.
The other promised me a car.
Oh, wow.
I went to neither school because I was like, you guys are both idiots. And I went to where the most money took me.
Okay.
That was all about the scholarship dollars.
One thing I did notice in the scene with Arliss, I don't know his name in this movie. He's got a very small role, but in the background they have a shoe and it's called the Gazelle. It's the exact same shoe as the Shaquille O'Neal high top shoe that he had out at the time. Like the logo's even the same, but they just made it look like a gazelle instead of Shaq hanging from the rim. Did you notice that at all?
No, I didn't. I did not put that together.
That's worth looking back at if you go through this movie and watch it, because it is clearly the Shaquille O'Neal shoe that they probably could not get the rights to, or didn't want to pony up the dough. I don't know. So anyway, Coach Bell first stop is to go see Butch McRae. So he's in Chicago. We watch him in the this like gym that's just packed to the rafters. All these people are watching Butch McRae just light it up. He's knocking down outside shots. He's dunking the ball. What's your first impression of Butch McRae here, watching him play?
I love the announcer in this scene. Just Butch McRae, Butch McRae, Butch McRae. And every time they're showing Nick Nolte, all you hear in the background is just Butch McRae making it rain. And
yeah,
I sucked at basketball. I never played it competitively. Like I couldn't figure out dribbling. But to watch just how like simple Penny Hardaway makes this it's not fair because at this point he's a professional player and he's playing with high schoolers, and I just kind of rolled my eyes and I was like, okay, come on, put Lil Penny on the court and give him a challenge. But he's good. Like, it's exciting, and the parallels that this movie makes against what will hopefully be a future episode in the program, focusing on the recruiting of football, which I know is probably more near and dear to both of our hearts. It's an exciting scene. He's good.
Right. Yeah, I've got a couple things on Butch McRae. One, he's silky smooth. He's a tall point guard. He's like 6'7", kind of a throwback, almost like a Magic Johnson, but much better offensive player than Magic Johnson was. He was more of a better distributor. Unfortunately, if anybody knows anything about Penny Hardaway, he had about 3 or 4 really good seasons in the NBA. He was definitely going to be like a major top 5 player for a long time, and injuries derailed his career. Of what should have been a Hall of Fame career ended up just being a kind of a sad story for him. He recently just took over as the head coach for Memphis University. He's coaching Division I basketball, doing his own recruiting now. That's kind of a neat story for him. After the game, Coach Bell goes in. He meets one of his old buddies here. I actually don't know his name in this role, but I recognize that guy from some different movies in the 90s. I can't put my finger on it, but anyway, he goes in there and this guy warns Coach Bell about Butch McRae's mom. And he's like, you go in there selling this, come to our school because of the academics. She's going to bowl right over you. She's a bulldog. And then, we're going to meet her in a second, but I like the setup for Butch McRae's mom. What'd you think about that?
It puts a lot of both humanity and personalization to Butch McRae and how important family is. And this is going to be an important theme that repeats itself later in the movie.
So we're at Butch's house next, and he's going to meet the mom. He's going to meet the grandma. He's going to meet the children. And, Butch is he's very reserved. He's like, Coach, I don't know, California, it's a long way from Chicago. But he does his best car salesman act here. He does a really good job interacting. He has the kids get up. He puts them in like a little basketball game. Grandma gets to hold the basket. I thought it was a really neat scene. Like if I was getting recruited by somebody, this is how I would have liked to have been recruited. And, his mom goes outside and she wants to talk about, getting a new house, a new job. And he's like, I run a clean program. You're not getting any of that stuff. What do you think of this scene?
Yeah, you make a great point. He mentions, I run a clean program. And this is everything that goes back into the scene that he had earlier about, it was Tony with his failing TV class and him being worried about his girlfriend. Like, he cares about his players. He may be a son of a bitch. He may be an asshole. He may be very rough around the edges, but he runs a clean program. And I think that's important to note. And I feel like the movie steamrolls over that portion of who he is as a character in many regards, because they have won so many national championships and conference championships and Final Four appearances by doing things the right way, that to think of him doing it the wrong way is really just a stab to him as a character.
Now in the next scene here, we're with the hick from French Lick, Larry Bird. He's actually retired at this point when they filmed the movie. This is the year after he retired from NBA basketball. He's out there shooting some jump shots. Coach Bell comes in. He wants to talk about Ricky Rowe. JD, were you a fan of Larry Bird growing up at all?
Oh, obviously. I mean, Jordan versus Bird is one of the best basketball games ever. And you just pick Larry Bird and you sit outside and just drain it all day.
And I can, kind of back you up on this because he came over to play Nintendo, and that's exactly what he did. He sat from outside, hit 3-pointers, and played zero defense on Jordan.
Yeah, it's like, NBA Jam, if NBA Jam had Larry Bird in it, it had Reggie Miller instead. Same concept.
Right. If there's anybody out there that has maybe heard about the legend of Larry Bird but never really watched him play, go ahead and just get on the YouTube, type in Larry Bird best highlights, and enjoy what you would think is like an overrated player, but when you actually see him play, was one of the most skillful NBA players of his time. Just like a magician with the basketball. Enjoy that if you haven't watched him play before. You can thank me at KAutry29 on Twitter. Give me a shout out. Now we're going to meet Ricky Rowe next. He's played by Matt Nover. Matt Nover was a really good college basketball player for Indiana. He ended up playing overseas, I think for like 10 years. He had a pretty long career playing international basketball. His grandma, little known fact, was about 5 doors down from my grandma in Porter, Indiana. So I always heard the Matt Nover stories and how proud she was of her grandson. I don't know what he's done since basketball ended, but what did you think of Matt Nover as Ricky Rowe? He's basically the Jimmy Chipwood of Blue Chips here.
He's down to earth and nowhere near as bankable of a star as Penny or Shaquille O'Neal.
No.
But when you see this movie, when you're a young white boy anywhere in America and you're watching, hey, maybe I can play ball. Maybe I can dunk. Maybe I will grow to be 6'7". You won't, but at least we can hope.
I would love to know the casting process and how he actually got this role. I mean, because he wasn't like a superstar college player. Like, he was a good college player. But there was a superstar college player at the time that played for Duke that ended up having like a 10, 12-year NBA career, was part of the Dream Team. His name was Christian Laettner. And I'm curious as to why he wasn't in the role of Ricky Rowe.
Well, shoot, they have Bobby Hurley in the movie.
They do have Bobby Hurley playing for Indiana, which is funny.
And he has like a sizable role, at least in terms of screen time for his game. Like, why not just have Bobby H?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. Both of those guys were more bankable stars than Matt Nover. Now, that's nothing against. I don't want him. Who knows what he does these days? Maybe he listens to the podcast. We don't know. No hate on you, Matt. But at this time, like, he's not a well-known name, so it's a little confusing, the casting on this one. Anyway, his dad kind of takes Coach Bell around the property. He's like, yeah, I run these farms here, and all these coaches been coming around offering me tractors. I didn't ask for any of it, but they just been offering it. And he just kind of implies that he wants a new tractor. And then Ricky and Larry Bird are in this French Lick parade. And then when they look down, or the camera points down, Coach Bell's driving the car. And some like old guy just looks at him and just like, what the heck? Or actually, I think those might have been college coaches there trying to recruit Ricky.
Yeah, they're the same coaches that were at the school in Chicago trying to get Butch.
That's right. Nice catch. So yeah, I thought that part made me laugh. And then we haven't gotten to what Ricky's going to ask for. That's going to come a little bit later in the movie here. But finally, Coach Bell gets back home, and right away, he's met by one of his, scout guys, who's like, man, I got a hot for you. Nobody knows about this guy. We got to go to Louisiana to go see him. And that's what's going to pull up our next clip here. And we're going to meet Neon Badeau. Let's listen in.
He ain't just big, Pete. He's quick. He's got big hands. Watch how he moves away from the ball. He's totally wrong. He's never been coached. I'm not gonna bullshit you, Pete. He ain't no brain surgeon, all right? Took the SAT recently, scored 520 out of a possible 1,600.
520? You get 400 for just spelling your name correctly.
That's it. Messed up on his name.
JD, what do you think of Shaq here as Neon?
He is a monster. This is, I don't know. I would love to be in the production office to go through casting. Was Shaq the reason why this movie exists? If Shaq wasn't in this movie, would we have a Blue Chips? Like, I feel like this movie is built around the fact that Shaquille O'Neal tears the rim down. He's a monster. Yeah. And this isn't like a not real portrayal of who he was on the court. Like, when he came in on the Magic, like, that is what he did left and right. And everybody knows that he made all of his money at LSU basketball. But gosh, like, it's so fantastic to see. And the way that they build and portray his character and the arc that they give him is, this is the backbone of the movie.
There's a couple things I really like. The first is we find out his SAT score was, I believe, 420 on the SAT. And Coach Bell's like, you get 500 points just for writing your name right. And then whatever his name is, Slick, Switchblade, whatever his name is, he's like, that's right. He can't spell his name. Didn't get his name right. And then Coach Bell and Neon are walking down the sidewalk. He's got these really colorful, like, jorts on. Then they end up in a Pentecostal church, and Coach Bell is still selling those cars, baby. He just goes right in there. He's like, shoot, I was raised First Baptist or whatever he says. He just goes in, starts clapping, and joins in on the church session. What do you think of this scene?
I'm glad that you brought that up, because that's a great reoccurring theme of Coach Bell assimilating to his players through religion. He did the same thing he tried to with Butch's mom. He did the same thing at Ricky Rowe's house, and he's doing it once again with Shaq. Like, he knows, like you called him a used car salesman. He knows how to sell product.
And that's exactly what he's doing in this next scene here, as he takes Butch, Ricky, and Neon throughout the school. Ricky's really interested in the girls. They go out in the middle of center court, and they play like the introductions for each player. I love that they made each one of them like 3 or 4 inches taller. And then at the end of it, I think Ricky's the one who's like, Coach, I'm only like 6'8". I'm not 6'11". He's like, you play for me, damn it, you are. And then they're like, Shaq, yeah, you are 7'4", even though he's really like 7'1". What do you think of that? I thought this was a really neat scene.
Again, that's college sport in a nutshell. You know, there's so much of it that is pushing the athletes to be bigger than they are. I'm pro sports too. I mean, look at Ray Lewis. He gets to murder how many people, and now he's in the Hall of Fame. Like, you're
Allegedly.
bigger than you are.
Yeah.
So you say allegedly. I say Ray Lewis murdered a few people. Ray Lewis, if you feel like coming to my house and angrily stabbing me and blaming somebody else, well, we have it on tape.
Yep. So we finally meet Happy in the next scene. And him and Coach Bell have a bit of a spat at the bar. And he goes out to kind of confront him in the streets, and they shout back and forth. And, you know, Happy wants them to be friends of the program. He wants to go after these big 3 to put Western back on the map. You know, one of the things that, you know, he keeps bringing up is like, he's like, I own your ass. And he keeps going back to the point shaving. Now, we don't actually get to that scene yet, but that's one of the pivotal scenes in this movie is when we find out that one of his players had shaved points. So he coached a dirty game. What do you think of Happy here? He's played by J.T. Walsh. I feel like this guy has been in quite a few things right around that same period. He's kind of always the bad guy. He would die actually just a couple years after this movie. What do you think of him here, though, as Happy?
Dude is a son of a bitch. And is he not just walking into this bar with 2 hookers? Like, I mean, is that not what's going on? Like, I saw him walk in with these 2 girls, and I was like,
I thought they were alumni.
Is that what it is? I took them as escorts.
No, they're definitely
Either way,
escorts.
baller move.
No, they're definitely escorts.
Maybe they were alumni and they took their, you know, civil humanities degrees and went into the black arts of backlist.
Mm-hmm. The scene after that, Pete goes to see his ex-wife. He wants her to tutor Neon and help out a little bit. He goes in and kind of plays with the kids, and she kind of like immediately falls in love with him. She wants to help this kid. She sees a lot of potential. You know, he's a nice guy. She even mentions, like, I'm not doing it for you, for Neon, maybe. For Tony, absolutely. She wants to see her boy Tony win some games his senior year. So I thought that's a nice scene. There's not a whole lot to talk about there other than his ex-wife's going to tutor him for the SATs. And then we go to a practice here where Neon, Butch, and Ricky are playing in street clothes against guys on the team and just destroying them. And you see Coach Bell in the bleachers just like with the biggest smile on his face, like, if I get these guys, we're going to a national championship. JD, what'd you think of that?
I love that part about basketball, that you can be a player so impactful coming out of high school and make such a difference. Like, again, I didn't play basketball. I played football. Coming into college at 17, 18 years old, you're just not physically ready to compete against grown-ass men. Basketball is kind of a different beast. And to see them just destroying the current like slate of players that Coach Bell has is just, it's exciting to watch.
So I'm going to go to a clip next. I think this is a really pivotal part of the movie here, and we're pretty much right at the halfway mark. And it's going to be Ricky Rowe coming into Coach's office, and you know, he kind of starts off like charming them a little bit. He's like, I really love it here. Oh, this is great. That leaves us with some business to discuss. Let's take a listen.
I guess that leaves a little bit of business we have to discuss, though, I think. Business? I figure a white blue chip athlete like myself deserves something extra. So, you know, this is what I'm looking for. Is about 30 grand. I'd like to have it in cash. And, you know, just toss in one of those gym bags you got. You know, I've seen a lot of things now.
I've been around a lot. They've offered me this much money already. If you guys can match my offer, I'm yours, Coach.
Get the hell out of here, Ricky. God damn it, get the hell out of here, Ricky. Get out of here. Get back in that gym, get your stuff. Get the hell out of here and go on home. Take off that damn uniform. You don't deserve to wear it. Just get out of here. Son of a bitch.
All right, JD. So Coach Bell blows up on him here. He really thought he was going to get him the clean way. He seemed so taken back by this whole thing. What'd you think?
Yeah, Guy has moxie to come into the coach's office surrounded by not only Coach Bell, but his assistant, and to demand that. I don't know. Like, I think
his
of
defense, I don't mean to cut you off, but when Coach Bell starts yelling at him, he's like, you can even see he puts his arms up and he kind of mumbles a little bit, but he goes, well, this is what everybody's been offering me. It's not like he's asking for like a Ferrari and a 3-bedroom apartment in the Ritz. Like, I mean, I just want $30,000 in cash. Throw it in one of them duffel bags.
Yeah, but at the same time, when's the last time you've done that at work as a grown-ass man?
Oh, never. Yeah.
But here he is, an 18-year-old boy marching into the coach's office and be like, everyone else is giving me this, so where the fuck is yours? Like, that takes testicles, man. So I give him props, and it kick-starts the next portion of the story where Coach Bell realizes if he wants to play in the next level of big leagues, he needs to play in the next level of big leagues.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's exactly what happens. He ends up going to the bar. He meets with his athletic director, and then the next thing you know, he's at Happy's house. And he's just like, how's it work? He's like, you don't need to know. You don't want to know. Just know that everything's taken care of and we're going back to the top, baby. You could tell Bell, like, he really doesn't like Happy. He doesn't want to do this, but he kind of feels like his back's against the wall. He's out of opportunities to win basketball games the right way. He's got to start doing the thing that everybody else is doing.
Yeah, I just wish that they would have shown more of the personal turmoil that he went through before making this decision. Like, we saw like the sportscast where the announcer was calling for the termination of him as coach, kick him out of the program. But for him, like, I feel like he doesn't have any stakes, like, to risk his reputation as a human, as a coach, as a basketball icon, to go against every fiber of who he is. I feel like this is a little forced.
Yeah. Okay. That's a fair point. We've got a montage next of Butch McRae's mother getting her new job. We see Ricky Rowe's dad walking outside to a brand new John Deere tractor. Some old guy drops off a fully loaded Lexus to Neon. He's like, I didn't ask for this call. He's like, hey, I just drop them off. They don't tell me nothing. Hands him a key and walks away. Ricky's going to get a knock at the door, comes out, he gets his duffel bag full of cash. Butch McRae's mom also gets the house with the white picket fence and the lawn. And then, we have a scene with Coach Bell, and he calls Happy. He's like, is it done? Yep. And he just hangs up on him. And then, we see the fax machine going, and it's all the letters of intent coming in. And old Ed's like, he bought him. I know he bought him. What do you think of all this, JD?
I'm a little torn because in watching this movie, it's very exciting to watch this twist of fate. It totally is. But from a storytelling, aspect, you have to look at the corners that they cut. Again, we don't get to see Pete Bell really dealing with the demons of making this decision. We don't get to see his ass on the line. We don't get to see the athletic director being like, well, if you don't bring in a good recruiting class, then we're going to cut you loose. Mm-hmm. And then, we see the money being given away, and the best things in life are obviously free. And then we cut to Ed O'Neill saying, he bought him. I know he bought him.
Yeah.
But he doesn't know that. How does he know that? Like,
well, because Butch McRae's mom went from an apartment in Chicago to a brand new job in a brand new house.
Yeah, but there's no paper trail to Coach Bell. Coach
That's
Bell's
true.
never done this before. He's never done this before. So for him to go from like, maybe if he says like, something's not right, how did he get this big class on a losing season? That's one thing. For him to go to, blue chips, he bought them. Like,
Right.
I feel like we're missing a scene or two of really seeing Ed put the pieces together and to be like, well, I can't believe Coach Bell would do this, but there's no other way. Like, I would love to have seen more development into that story.
Okay. So maybe skip the next scene with Neon standing up in the class and saying it's culturally biased.
Yeah, I could do without this scene.
Yeah. One of the things that was interesting about Neon's character is he really doesn't want the car. He didn't ask for any handouts. He appears to be working hard to actually take his SAT and score well on it. We all know Shaq made his money in college. So do you think this was like part of his contract where he's like, hey, I'll do the movie, but I'm not going to be one of the guys that cheats because I've already got them breathing down my neck.
I do feel like there's a little bit of tongue in cheek, that there's a little bit of irony to be had for who Neon is and what his character goes through and what he stands for. And it's a perfect foil against the other two characters. And obviously Ricky Rose taking the money for himself, giving the tractor to his mom. Butch is only concerned about his family, and then Neon is only concerned about basketball.
And Ricky Rowe in real life didn't get no $30,000 bag full of cash. They're going, you're a goofy white dude that needs to develop. You'll come here and like it. Yes, coach, I'll take the spot.
Is that what they told you while recruiting, Kyle?
No, they told me you're going to get $2,500 and we'll see how things go. And I'm like, we'll take it. And I was off. And then here we are. So the next scene here is, all the guys are on campus. They're now training. Ed's in the background. He's still trying to figure some things out, but they're really quick scenes, so we don't really learn a whole lot. Coach Bell goes out to dinner with his ex-wife, and she wants him to look her in the eye and tell the truth. And she wants to know if he cheated or not. And he looks her right in the eye and says, no. I thought this was kind of a powerful scene. I think if this movie had more of this is probably a more popular movie today. What do you think?
I agree completely, especially with the pacing that they do in the scene with bringing in the young kids for autographs.
Right.
So you have this scene where he's sort of soaking up the fact that he's the coach again. And then these kids are trying to get his autograph. And he's like, I feel like he wants to tell him, it's not me that you want the autograph of. It's Butch. And all his wife cares about is, did you cheat? And then all he cares about then is the moment.
Yeah, it's a good... We don't know what happened, but it seems like Coach probably got lucky that night. I think he was looking the beak after dinner.
Oh, there was a Coach Bell beak.
Yeah. He beaked his bell. The next thing that happens is Butch McRae walks into his office. He's like, I'm homesick. I don't like you yelling at me. I want to run the offense this way. And I just want to know, if I quit and go home, is my mom going to lose her house and car? And he's like, I don't know nothing about that. He's like, you're talking to the wrong guy. If you set up arrangements, that's your own thing. Like, he's still kind of playing it off. But eventually, he does make the phone call to Happy. And Happy kind of rips his ass. And when he hangs up the phone, he says, you better be at practice on Monday. I feel like this is something that probably happens a lot in college athletics, where the players get homesick or they quit. These type of conversations have happened a lot. But what do you think of this scene? Kind of an emotional scene for Penny Hardaway. I didn't think he was terrible in this.
No, he does a good job acting wise, but I want to bring up the point that, to me, I think that Happy is humanized in this, and I feel that Coach Bell doesn't necessarily realize his part in this. Coach Bell thinks that, okay, the friends of the program took care of everything. I got my athletes. That's the end of it. Where Happy wants to prove the point of, we did our part. Your job is to make him happy.
Mm-hmm.
Who cares if he's homesick? You need to reestablish what home is to him. Like, that's
Right.
your job as the coach. You're no longer have to worry about fundamentals. You're a babysitter. You need to worry about keeping them happy. And that's a position that Coach Bell's never been in.
Mm-hmm. Now, Jenny in the next scene here goes to drop off some tapes to Coach. He's doing his like TV show thing or pep rally. I can't remember which one it was. And she runs into the assistant coach and he's like, you should come out and have dinner and we're going to celebrate. And then in comes Happy with Ricky Rowe. And she's like, what the heck's he doing here? He's like, friends of the program, you know? You know how it is. And that's when she realizes that Coach Bell has lied directly to her face. And this is going to kind of set up their next arc of their characters here. JD, what'd you think of this scene?
Yeah, I know I just gave credit to Happy for being a good human, but I feel like he does this with Ricky Rowe just to spite Coach Bell.
Right.
Like, he knows how to get under Coach Bell's skin, and he's doing it to try to control Coach Bell, to control the players, so the friends of the program get to reap the benefits in the long run. Because again, as it's been said and established, is the players, college players, don't make money off of victories. Alumni, friends of the program, administrators, they all do. It's a $1 million industry, which one could say that it's the equivalent of slavery.
That's definitely been thrown around quite a bit, so you can't argue that. The one part of this scene here that's interesting is Happy says, "Go to the tapes, Coach. I own your ass," and he tells him exactly which game. And Coach Bell goes back into the locker room. He pulls the tapes. He gets all the assistant coaches. And they watch this game from a couple years ago with Tony, TV Tony. And they can clearly see that he's purposely shaving points. He's throwing really bad passes. He's not playing any defense.
Kyle, really quickly, can you explain point shaving to our audience? I know we touched on it earlier, but as being a kind of a basketball connoisseur, I would love to hear you just spout out what that means, what Tony is exactly doing here.
So every game has a point spread. Whether you're supposed to be the winner or the loser, they might say that you're a 3.5 point favorite to win, which means to cover the spread, you have to win by 4. Okay, anything less, if you're betting on that team, you lose. So if they only win by 2, you lose the spread. So basically what he's doing is he's assuring that they only win by that amount so that the person that paid him to kind of throw that game gets that big payoff. So, when they get up by a certain amount of points, then he throws a pass on purpose to the other team and then doesn't play any defense. And that's what's called shaving points. So, and he could do the same thing. Like, he could be up for a free throw, know that he needs 1 point, not 2 points. So he'd make one, miss one on purpose. So I'm sure there's more technological understanding of it, but that's how I understand the point shaving.
Cool. Thank you for that.
Yeah, no problem. So the assistant coaches are like really pissed too, because they're like, Tony's our guy. He would never do this. So Coach Bell goes to his dorm room that night. He confronts him. He throws him up against the wall. And Tony admits to him that he did it. He did it just once. He screwed up. He's really sorry. But, that's it. Coach Bell thought he had like this perfect record and he ran a clean program. And that's not true anymore.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of emotional stakes that are established. And I wish that the broad strokes of Coach Bell's arc were more prevalent. But this is a great scene. Coach Bell, he sees his understanding of his program crumbling around him. And he thinks for so long that he has a clean program, only to find out that he was just kind of oblivious to just how powerful the friends of the program are, just like how influential Happy is. And I think that's a testament to college sports, the betting world. There's almost there's like a dollar sign on anything. The message is everybody can be bought.
So Coach Bell goes to his ex-wife's house, and Jenny's really not happy. She knows that he's lied. He admits it. He wants to come in for a drink, and she's like, I can't trust you anymore. You got to get out of here. Lock the door on the way out. Take your tapes. Get out of my house. So that relationship that he had worked so hard to rekindle, that one is now gone as well. Now, I've got a clip next, and we're going to hear Coach Bell's pep talk. This one's going to be a little different than the opening clip that we played, but let's take a listen here.
All right, boys. We got a job to do. We got a job. Now, goddammit, we're not going out there to make a good show or just put up a good fight. We're going out there to beat the best goddamn team in the country right now. Now, let me tell you something, boys. You may not know this, but I know it. I've been there before. There is the talent in this room to do just that. To beat Indiana. All right. Butch, the ball is yours. And our first option is to get the ball into Neon. And Neon, goddammit, you take it to the basket and you take it hard. Now they're gonna make an adjustment. And when they adjust and double down and triple down on Neon, we're gonna move the ball out to Ricky. And Ricky, you can put it up from where you're at all night long. The basket is the same height as it was at your father's barn in Indiana. Boys, Indiana's over there in the other locker room wondering what the hell we're gonna do. Well, I'll send a note over to Bobby Knight, and I'll tell him exactly what we're going to do. I'll give him our offense, I'll give him our defense. Because it's not what you do, goddammit, it's how you do it. And we're going to go nose to nose with him, and we're going to beat him at both ends of the court. And you're going to play better than you ever dreamed of. Because, goddammit, that's what I demand of you.
All right, so this speech is so much different from the first one. Because he's going to lay out, like, the ball is yours, Butch, our first option is to throw it down the Neon. When they make an adjustment after he's done dunking on them, then they're going to start to double team him. We're going to kick it out to Ricky. He's going to hit jump shots all day. And, we're taking down Indiana. And I should mention at this point, because it's worth noting, in the mid 90s, early 90s, Indiana Hoosiers, Indiana basketball was a powerhouse with Bobby Knight. They were led at that point by Calbert Chaney. I don't know if you remember that name at all, JD. But he's in the movie. Number 40 was very good. Also was a teammate of Matt Nover, who plays Ricky Rowe. And then their point guard's going to be Bobby Hurley, who of course was the point guard for the Duke Blue Devils, who won 2 national championships, beating a lot of those Hoosier teams, coached by Bobby Knight. But the one part that really sticks out to me, because I know I've heard this in locker rooms so many times over the years, is, you know what? I'll send over the game plan for our offense. I'll send over the game plan for our defense because, damn it, it's not what you do, it's how you do it. They can know what it is, but it shouldn't make any difference. What do you think, JD?
I agree with that coaching strategy. I mean, at the end of the day, there's going to be a better team and a worse team. And I think that what Coach Bell is doing is really illustrating how great he is as a coach and how great he is strategizing his game plan. Yep,
that's a great point. So we're into the basketball game. We've got Dickie Vitale. He's like, we got a couple of diaper dandies, baby. It's going to be awesome. I love that guy. I love that he's still around, too. Can you believe that? Every year when the tournament comes around, old Dickie V comes out.
How old is he?
You know what? I think he was younger than we thought he was at the time. But I think he's now like in his 70s and 80s, somewhere in there.
Because I remember him being in like his 80s back in the 90s.
I think we thought he was in his 80s, but he was probably like 50. I'll give you the actual age of him right now. He is 79. So yeah, that would have made him 25. That would have made him 54 in this movie.
Jeez. But if he looks good for 79 now, he did not look good for 54 then.
Well, yeah, he hasn't aged in 25 years. Unfortunately, he still looks like he's 80. Too bad it wasn't like he looks like he's 40 and he's now 70, right? But anyway, the game starts. This is a really good back and forth battle. There's both teams are doing really well. They're keeping it close. Neon's doing his thing. He even brings the ball up the court a couple times, which he always tried to do that in the NBA, which always made me laugh when he would just grab a rebound and take off with it. But Coach Bell's right. They start making some adjustments on Neon, so he starts kicking it out to Ricky Rowe, who starts scoring. And then we get down to this kind of final scene, and they're locked up. It's a 1-point game. They're going to get one last shot at this thing here. So let's listen to a clip of Coach Bell drawing up the play to see if they can pull off this major upset of the Indiana Hoosiers.
Here, Mitch, come back, get the pass back from Butch. Give it right back to him and go down to the low post. Neon, as soon as you see Butch going over, you flash out to the foul line. Mitch, I want you to come right up on Neon's man. I mean, scream, pin him over, pin him. Neon, you reverse, go to the weak side, go up for the line. You've got 12 seconds. Butch, when you get it into Neon, you get it in high. This is the number one team in the nation. We can beat their ass tonight.
With this, JD, since you're not a basketball guy, I'll take this. This is like the old picket fence here, except instead of the shooter coming through to get the ball, when Neon comes to back screen, his man's gonna come from behind and screen his defender, and he's gonna roll to the basket and get this lob pass for a dunk to win the game. It's actually a really good drawn up play. This has been used a lot. It actually does work in games. Of course, this is Hollywood, so it looks a lot easier than it actually is to pull off. But what'd you think of the game-winning slam here? And Neon with his
Is it the shoes? You're right. I'm happy that you jumped in and took that because, again, I don't know basketball. I was gonna say this reminded me of the annexation of Puerto Rico from Little Giants. But
Fumble-Ruski.
It's Coach Bell. I wish there was more to this movie about just how fantastic Coach Bell is as a coach. We've established him as an asshole. We've established him as a huckster and salesman. We've established him as a strategist. And now we get to see just he is the full package as a coach. And he sits down calmly and says, this is what we need to do to win. And he wins. The end. It's like, where have you been this entire movie? And I know that there's been flashes of his greatness as a coach, but I think it's been one-dimensional up until now, where we get to see this full 3D projection of who he is as a character, and it's a great payoff.
Yeah, and speaking of great payoffs, I think if the movie would have ended right there on that Shaquille O'Neal dunk, people probably would have been happy with this movie. But I like what they did here at the ending. Coach Bell is now beloved. He's back on top. And he gets into the locker room. He's like, fellas, I can't win like this. I know some of you guys took money. And, it's our fault for giving it to you. We shouldn't have done that. We're going to help you. We're going to make sure you guys graduate. If you need help transferring schools, we're going to help you do it. He's like, I love you guys. And he walks out, goes into the press conference, and he lets them have it. It's an emotional scene talking about last year's team, about how it wasn't good enough for him, it wasn't good enough for you, it wasn't good enough for anybody. And, those kids played their heart out, but they just didn't have the talent. And then he admits to, giving money to Ricky Rowe. He admits to giving Neon a car, Butch's mom a house. And I love that Happy goes from being happy in the background to realizing, he's not joking around. He's actually telling them what we've been doing. So JD, what do you think of this kind of ending scene here to Pete Bell's college basketball career?
So to me, I can't help but draw a just very distinct comparison between the end of this movie and the end of Any Given Sunday.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And for what it's worth, that movie ends with a press conference. It goes in a different direction, but Al Pacino essentially turns the franchise up on its head for his own personal gain, which I think is what Nick Nolte's doing here, but he's doing it for salvation and redemption, which is really cool. And at the end of the day, like, we really get to see just how powerful of an influencer he is on the community, on the basketball program, and everything that he says and does right now transitions into the actual ending scene of him, walking out onto that youth basketball court. He is a good guy. He's misunderstood and his methods are not appreciated, but they produce results. And I love the fact, especially like you said, that he says when he compares it to last year's team and says they've got the heart, but they didn't have the talent. And that's what he cares about. And he thought maybe he could care about the talent over the heart, minus Shaq's character. I mean, Ricky and Butch didn't have the heart.
Yeah, and I also really like the ending side. I think that's the perfect way to end the movie, is him going out to the basketball court and like, hey man, you're too good of a basketball player to be shooting with two hands. Here's how you shoot a basketball. And then he's like, you guys want to play some ball? And he just breaks them up into teams and starts coaching. And then on the screen it pops up. It says Western Union. Western University was banned 3 years from NCAA play. Tony finally passed TV, played basketball professionally. Ricky Rowe injured his knee and went to work on his farm in Indiana. He now runs the farm. Butch and Neon dropped out of school. They now play in the NBA. Which is true. That's exactly what happened. Shaq got drafted in 92, and then the Orlando Magic drafted Penny Hardaway in the 1993 season, and it was because of Shaquille O'Neal's recommendation. They actually traded for him. So, JD, do you know who he was traded for?
If you asked me back in the 90s, I would have known without dropping a beat.
I will help you out a little bit. It was Chris Webber.
Damn it. Yep.
So that's it, man. That's the final scene of Blue Chips. Let's put a bow on it. Kind of going back and watching it. I know you were kind of iffy when we initially talked. Like, I don't know if this is going to be any good. I haven't watched this movie in a long time. Ultimately, what do you think about the rewatch of seeing Blue Chips for the first time in a long time?
For me, I did enjoy it. I enjoyed watching it. I liked the story, but being that I'm not a basketball fan or player, I didn't necessarily connect with a lot of it. And so it made me really be reminiscent to different movies that were more applicable to who I was growing up. I really appreciated a lot of what they did with the story. I think that there was a better story that they could have told in this package, but the performances were fantastic. Nick Nolte was just out of this world. Shaq smiling like nobody's business. And like you mentioned earlier, Anthony Hardaway, he actually gives a good performance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I hate to feel like I'm crapping on Anthony Hardaway because of injuries, but he actually did play in the NBA for 14 years. Unfortunately, 10 of them was him kind of not being healthy and being a shell of himself. But those first 4 years, I'm telling you, man, those were the golden years for him.
Those were the days.
So, guys, just to recap real quick, I'm sure you have already listened to the episode, but the teaser trailer is up right now. We also have that poll topic episode that's up. That's a short, 7-8 minute listen. Give that a listen, and then make sure you get on Twitter, because if you're listening to this on Wednesday or Thursday, those are the last days to vote on our babysitter poll topic. So help us pick the next movie. We're actually going to be joined on that podcast by Carlos from the Be Kind Rewind podcast. So I'm excited to talk with him. Just get to know him. I'm a big fan of his show. I think he does a good job. He does a lot more interviews and stuff like that. He actually is interviewing the kicker from Little Giants. So that's going to be, I think, next week on his show. All right, so we will be back next week with Can't Hardly Wait. JD, real quick, give me one thing that you look forward to most when we talk about Can't Hardly Wait.
The music.
Okay, the soundtrack. I look forward to more Jennifer Love Hewitt. dancing to the music. Or not dancing, maybe just standing there, looking pretty. As always, guys, follow us on social media. We're at Back in Time Pod. You can shoot us an email, backintimepodcast@gmail.com. I am Kautry29. JD is Unjust Justin. He'll be burping. I'll be retweeting the burps throughout the week. Give him a follow. But it is that time of the episode to get back into the DeLorean, punch in today's date, return back to present day. We'll be back next week with Can't Hardly Wait. See ya.
The nail in the coffin.